Welcome to Virgin Prunes Talk. In episode 5, Gavin Friday is in conversation with Eoin Devereux. They talk about the 1982 Virgin Prunes album, If I Die, I Die. Gavin Friday, If I Die, I Die has been described by one critic as an album which confounds and creates and presents us with unfettered creativity. Can you talk to us about the origins of this album?
There was two sides to the album. Rather than an A side and a B side, we had a blue side, dealing with the sky and earthly things, and then the primitive side, the brown side. This all sounds a little abstract to the outsider, but we had, in our own way, made up this imaginary primitive world, the land of the beautiful people, with our own language that only us could understand.
This man shall never know. This man shall never understand. I close my eyes, I cannot see.
At this stage you were signed to Rough Trade.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any sense from Rough Trade, or was there any pressure from Rough Trade on the Virgin Prunes having to deliver a record that might be more accessible or more commercially successful?
There wasn't. To be honest, like Rough Trade were quite open-minded. I mean, Jeff Travis, he would advise you. If I Die, I Die was seen, in a strange way, officially our first debut album. New Form of Beauty was always seen back in the day as a surreal, recorded live project. And Rough Trade recommended that we would take aboard the idea of working with a producer. We had done 2 years of recording independently on our own, and we were open to it because it was something new, but we said we would have to work with a producer that understood what it's like to be a band. We had this ridiculously naive thing of not selling out. You know, it sounds childish now, but they were big political things back then. So Colin Newman came up, and I was a diehard Wire fan from 1978. I'd seen them live in London numerous times, and it just made sense. And we met Colin in London, and 2 weeks later he came over to Dublin for 2 weeks to record with us in Windmill Lane, which was the infamous big studio in Dublin. It was not cheap to record there. I think our budget was £10,000 sterling, which was a lot of money back then. I, without even contacting Jeff, went out and spent 5,000 of it on photographs. And Jeff was like, Gavin, for fuck's sake, that's what David Bowie would spend on his artwork. And I said, yeah, exactly. That's why we did that. There was method to the madness, because 40 years later, the photographs still look great. So we took the artwork as seriously as the sound, and always did. We did these photo shoots in County Wicklow. We went native, dressed primitively with muck.
Lots of young bands talk about when they begin to work with a producer, and probably particularly a producer who is himself or herself a musician, and successful musician in a band, that one of the things that they gain from working with a producer is studio discipline. Did that happen in the Virgin Prunes?
It did. It was quite a challenge for the man, Colin, but we were quite archaic when we recorded, and we believed in first takes and improvisation, and don't over-rehearse this, get it raw. And he just said, well, you can if you want, but why not take a challenge of like arranging it a bit more, thinking about your vocal performance, do 4 or 5 takes, sit back, redo it again. So really, he basically gave us the insight to arrangement.
Should I talk the way you want want me to talk, say the things the way you want to hear them. I know a lot of people like that. They talk in words, but what do they mean? When hearts becomes a chain, painted like a heart.
Improvisation, it's like throwing a coin up in the air. It's either going to be great or there's only moments of greatness. Where this was honing in and crafting, it was a challenge for us because, as you know, most young people don't want to do their homework, and it felt a bit like that. But I really embraced it, and we learned so much from working with Colin. If you listen to the music of the Brown side, it has that earthiness. We used authentic Irish instruments. I'm very fond of the Brown side. I love it. For the blues side, it was electric, visceral, noisy, urban. Walls of Jericho, it was a big, big live favourite. A standard early 80s rock tune spitting out against so-called organised religion, which was really our pet hate at the time. Caucasian Walk is one of the first songs the Virgin Prunes ever wrote. Now, a lot of people would debate because you've never written a real song in your life, but the lyric especially. I used to tape loads of conversations that we have, and we would just take that line, cut it out, write it down, and it was a visceral lyric, and it still stands up as one big kick in the face. When we got this collection of songs, it was almost like set us on the road to touring. The Virgin Prunes performances previous were almost like one-off events. There was a lot of visual props and whatever, but when you're touring, especially you're in a high-ace van back in them days, driving across Europe, you can't really bring that much props, etc., etc. So it made us reinvent how we would do this. We became a straightforward touring band. A straightforward Virgin Prunes touring band, because we still walked that in our own way. Usually for an encore, most bands would play the hit singles or their most popular songs, or let's make everyone go away feeling good. We would go, let's make everyone go home feeling shit and really thinking about things. So the encore, the end of the Virgin Prunes show, was just desecration visually. We would like strip off all our clothes, bring in the muck paint. Even the music was pretty hell for leather, and it was improvised every night. In retrospect, If I Die, I Die is a wonderful album. It has a peculiar foreverness about it. Sonically, it's nowhere as extreme as A New Form of Beauty or Heresy, but in truth, If I Die, I Die does capture the essence of the band that was Virgin Prunes.